in this particular discussion, we will actually map out a strategy that you can take up if you are interested to pursue this particular goal. That if you want your kid to be in one of such great universities, then it requires a lot of work and a lot of planned work over a sustained period of time. It cannot happen overnight. At Cheenta, we work with such gifted students all the time to give them a holistic assistance to reach these universities, and this particular seminar is basically a part and parcel of that attempt. I'll say a little bit about myself. My name is Oshani Dashgupta. I have been one of the founding members of Cheenta Academy, and personally, I love doing mathematics. I did my PhD from University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee on geometric group theory. It's a part of mathematics, which is a confluence of geometry, group theory, and topology. It's very exciting. I'm still in a lot of research. I love guiding students in research projects as well, and I've been attached with Cheenta since 2010. So there are essentially 7 steps, and these 7 steps that we will discuss today are focused on mathematical science aspirants. So what I'm going to say today, everything that I'll say is basically applicable to kids who are pursuing mathematics, physics, computer science, or statistics, or similar subjects. For other subjects, we do not have the expertise, so I cannot comment on that. So this is focused on these subjects: mathematics, physics, computer science, statistics, and similar topics. So 7 steps. The first step, is quite simple. Everyone understands it. There are literally 3 parts of it. School grades, of course, you have to have excellent school grades. Goes without saying. Standardized tests like SAT or ACT. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. And advanced placement credits, so AP credits. So these are the 3 components of the general academic excellence. Again, when I'll say 7 steps, step 1 to step 7, not every student has all the 7 steps sorted. That usually doesn't happen. What usually happens is that there is some vulnerability in some area, and there is some outstanding output in some other area. In fact, those are better candidates in some sense. Maybe you don't have a great SAT score, but you do have an outstanding research paper, something like that. Okay, and I'm not taking questions right away. Let me just complete, and then I'll come back to questions later. So, and AP credits are, there are several advanced placement credits available from College Board. You can check them out in the internet. Usually they are evidence of some advanced activity, academic activity that the student has done. So I'll give you an example of how this works, like some evidence to support what I'm saying. The average SAT score, for example, for MIT, and all of this data is easily available online. So for MIT, the average SAT score was 1535 in the year 2021. That's out of 600. So average means it's the 50th percentile. So there were students who have gotten into MIT with lower SAT scores. In fact, one of our students have done that, but that kid had other outstanding things going on for her. So SATs were like really a formality for her. I think she had an informal invite from a professor even before she took the SAT. So those things can happen, but as a general principle, this is you should aim for 1500s. for sure. Now, for AP credits, there are four sort of broad areas. There are calculus BC, or AP statistics, or computer science A, or physics A mechanics. Actually, physics also has another test, another AP test, but we always prefer mechanics over electromagnetism and other topics, because mechanics is kind of more fundamental and in a sense more mathematical in nature. So we recommend that you take at least three AP credits, and choose from these four, because these are the most important ones in some sense. Now, so again, three things: um, general GPA, or general score in your school, sorry, school results. General school results should be good. SAT should be good, and AP credits you should definitely try out for that. Chinta can and does help consistently with AP courses. So if you are already enrolled in AP courses that we have, great. If you don't, you can probably check that out. Anyway, so let's go to step two. Yeah, AP credits. So these are special courses that students can take. It's just a test. AP, there is a test at the end of the course, and one can take this. It's usually happens in end April or May, and usually students take those courses to number one, show the university that they have done some advanced work. And number two, sometimes some universities or colleges will waive some requirements if you have certain AP credits. For example, let's say you want to take a computer science program in Purdue, or some, let's say Johns Hopkins, some big university. You want to take a computer science program, and the first year of the program, yeah, you can actually. Yes, Siddhant. Let's reserve the questions for the end, but I'm just answering this one to clarify. So let's say you are taking computer science program, and the university requires that you take calculus course to actually graduate. So you have some required courses that you have to take to graduate from that university with that degree. And one of the required courses is calculus. Now, if you have taken AP calculus before you entered the university, then you can tell the university that, hey, I have already taken this calculus course. I do not want to take this one more time. And the university might agree. That depends on the policy of the university. The university agrees actually, but it might agree and say, okay, I see that university might say that, okay, I see that you have already taken the AP calculus, so you know a bunch of calculus, so you don't have to take a calculus course in a university. So that's how AP credits work. First, they show the university that, I have taken some advanced stuff, and secondly, that um, it shows the university that, okay, you can trade some courses. Okay. Anyway, so that's the generalized academic excellence. 3 points I have talked about there. Now let's go to step two. This step two, I call this extraordinary academic excellence. So the first one was general academic excellence. The second one is extraordinary academic excellence. So this has three sort of subheadings. Uh, Olympiads, that's the first part. Second part is the research projects. And the third part is academic internships. Now, Cheenta does all of these things. So maybe some of you are already working in one or more of these programs. So let's talk a little bit about research first. Many kids start their research activity when they're in ninth grade, and um, usually what you do is you find a mentor who will actually work with you on a problem. You try to solve that problem. I'll come back to your questions later. So again, so You try to solve that problem and then write down an academic paper which can be published in some peer-reviewed journals. Now, there are several peer-reviewed journals which publishes high school research. I have put some of the names here: Interdisciplinary Journal of Problem-Based Learning, Journal of Emerging Investigators, International Journal of High School Research, Concord Review, and so on. So there are several others which are really good. Some of them are not really good. So if you are working with one of our mentors on a research program, then your mentor will probably tell you where to submit the paper. Okay, IEEE is obviously very good, but again, these are peer-reviewed journals for high school students. That's what I mentioned here. Of course, if you have a great result, you can obviously go for the pro journals, the bigger journals. That's obviously true. But as a beginner, you should focus on the high school level journals and try to get your work published there. Even if you do not have your work published, you can always submit your paper as an additional material to the university while you're applying. So we have had students who have done that consistently. We have had a student who went to Harvard. He worked with us on graph theory and knowledge maps. And then he actually submitted that paper not to any journal, submitted that paper directly to the university application uh, as an additional material. So that can also be done. No matter what, you should definitely start with research once you have had some experience with problem solving in some Olympiad program. That's the part on research. I'll talk about a little bit about math Olympiads, how they help. Um, some universities, for example, MIT, actually has a section in their application process where you can plug in your scores from AMC's American Math Competition and AMI. So we always recommend students to take the American Math competitions because they are of great value to several university applications. And this is one example where the university actually has a system to record the AME scores. So if you are planning for uh, universities in the US, you should definitely take the American Math competition. I'll give you a test study and to actually give you a sense of what type of scores are needed. For example, AMC 10, the American Math Competition 10, um, which is taken by around 1,59,000 students from US, and there are 40,000 kids outside US which who also take it. So at least around 200,000 kids take the AMC 10. Now, there are two sort of distinctions. One is called the Distinguished Honor Roll. You score 120 or above. That's I'm everything I'm saying is an average. It varies year to year. I'm just giving you an average sense. So if you're scoring above 120, and that is done by around 300 to 500 kids every year. So from 200,000, 2 lakh kids, 300 to 500 kids are actually getting 120 plus. So that's called distinguished honor roll. And then you have the honor roll, which is around 1,000 kids get that if you score 105-ish or above. Again, these are all average scores. It can go up or down some years, but I'm just saying the average. I'm trying to give you the average sense. So this is out of 150. Okay, the total score is 150. So if you score 120 or above, you are automatically within the top 300 to 500 kids in the entire world who took the seat. And that is awesome because if you are planning to apply to some of the Ivy League universities, or let's say the top 20 universities in US, there are 400, 500 seats out there. So it it actually kind of fits very nicely. Now, I have to be very careful in saying here that if you score 120 plus, that does not necessarily guarantee your admission to any of the universities. It doesn't work that way. But it becomes a very important part of your admission packet. So all the steps that I'm saying, that is building your profile, and this is one important component of the profile. So if you are planning to take the AMC 10, try to hit the 120 plus mark. Now, if you are taking the Mathematical Olympiads programs at Cheenta, then you know that I stress this all the time, that you should definitely attend the problem solving classes, which happen 4 to 5 times every week. Because what happens is, if you take the problem solving classes consistently, then you actually do about 1000 non-routine problems inside the class, and it becomes like a second habit. And if you can hit 2000 more problems at your home, and if you can build a corpus of 3000 problems, then there is no reason why you should not be able to do this well in AMC 10. There is absolutely no reason. You have to bring it to the habit. So that's the thing. Of course, there are other Olympiads. So if you, maybe you are already working with some of these, we have Mathematical Olympiads, Physics Olympiads, and Informatics Olympiads. There are other Olympiads. Cheenta do not have programs on those. We have only on these three. And actually, these three are the most important three. Mathematics. If you are in India, of course, you can go ahead and take the Indian version of these Olympiads. They are also good, but please make sure to take the AMCs as well. So for Mathematics Olympiad, there are AMC 10, 12 to AME. For Physics Olympiad, there is F equal to MA in US, and then there is the International Physics Olympiad. Of course, in India, it's it is NSEP is the first level. Instead of F equal to MA, we have NSEP. So if you're taking the Physics
So what
Olympiad
did you
program at
say? FEQNA.
F equal to MA, it's written on the board. This is for US kids. For
So
Indian
not for
kids,
me.
it's NSEP.
Yes,
NSEP.
yes. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
okay.
So one more thing, if my child is in class 11 and he'll be going
Okay.
to class 12 in...
Yeah, ma'am, there are 100 people here,
Okay.
so I cannot take questions right away. Let me complete, and then I'll definitely take up questions. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So for informatics, that is Computer Science Olympiad, there are in India it is ZCO, ZIO, but all of these things again go toward the International Informatics Olympiad on Informatics. So if you are planning to go to some of the best places in the world, then you should at least plan for one of these three Olympiads: mathematics, physics, or informatics. I have seen kids who have done two of them. There was there were a couple of kids who did all three. And I have talked about this before, that if you do really well for the mathematical Olympiads or the informatics Olympiad or the physics Olympiad, some outstanding funding opportunities actually open up at the admission level. So that's really awesome. Okay. So there are multiple benefits of this, but the most important benefit that I feel is that once you start preparing for the Olympiads, you actually you actually gain a love for the subjects, because you get to solve some very beautiful problems, and your entire mindset changes. And believe it or not, that is actually a more important thing than the other usefulness or the other values that I talked about. That change in mindset will stay with the kid for the entire life, and they would have gained a problem solver's mind, in some sense. So if you have not yet done that, please plan for the Olympiads. Of course, as I told you, that Cheenta helps kids with Olympiad programs, research programs, internships. We Many of the students at Cheenta actually do internships with us. We have collaborations with rural schools from different parts of India and so on. So I'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later. Let's go to step three. Step three is basically letters of recommendation. So usually three letters of recommendations are actually suggested by the universities, and you have to be very careful about the letters of recommendation. That is, um, it should number one, it should be personalized. So it's a very bad idea to fake a letter of recommendation or ask a very big name. Let's say you ask a Nobel laureate, maybe that person is your family friend or something, but then that person doesn't know the kid, so it that won't help. So I would say that in our experience, it's always good to stay honest in the process and but be intelligent about it. So if you are taking a research project, then your research mentor would be an excellent person to give write a letter of recommendation. That's outside the school, and a school teacher would be fantastic choice for a letter of recommendation. And the third one, this is sort of the secret sauce. The third one is a non-domain mentor. This is something that we suggest all the time. If you want to stand out from all the people who are applying, there are thousands of people who are applying, then you have to have some secret sauce in your application process. And one of them could be that one of your letter of recommendation is not from the academic sphere at all. Maybe it is from your soccer coach. Maybe it's from your chess mentor. Maybe it's from your family business person who saw you working in the business organization. Something that you did that is not directly related with the bookish academic activity, but from something else. That can be really, really, really helpful. So we have seen this over the years. So um, make sure to have this particular type of mix. One of the things that students do, and that's a big mistake, and I should have talked about this in the research project space topic only, that do not try to fake it, in the sense that do not make large claims that are not substantiated. If you cannot solve a new problem, no one is actually expecting a high school student to solve a new unsolved problem. I mean, if you can, that's great. But if you cannot, then you can always create some expository papers which at same which looks at known ideas from a fresh eye. That's totally fine. An expository paper actually shows that shows some originality is far better than a fake paper which claims which make tall claims which are not substantiated. So avoid those. One of the biggest trends that people have these days is to create an artificial intelligence or machine learning related project, and you can just pull some odd amount of data and you can declare that okay, you have made a project. Please don't do this kind of silly things. Everyone is doing it. If you really want to do something nice, work with a real professor or a real mentor and actually work with some real problems where you have to study and find out and figure out and learn. You cannot fake your way through it. So make sure to keep it real. Okay. So that's very, very important. All right. So now let's come to step four. Step four is superbly important, is the statement of purpose. Now, statement of purpose actually evolves through all the things that I have said up to now. There are 4 or 5 steps I've already talked about. Statement of purpose is a culmination point of all of these things. So, of course, if you are already in the in the Cheenta community, then our mentors are reviewing your statement of purpose and so on. But the general idea is this, that it should have five broad points. The first one is an early experience that sparked your interest in some part of this mathematical sciences. The second part is you speak about your academic background. Like, let's say if you have taken some research project, if you have taken some math olympiad classes, if you have learned something weird that you want to mention in this. So your academic background should not be your bragging points. It should contain some wisdom points in some sense. Wisdom points means some things that actually inspired you. I'll give you an example. So there was this kid who worked with me for quite some time, and he was really excited about solving mathematical problems. Now, one of the books that he solved was actually written by a Russian author called Yaglom. Now, Yaglom has this very interesting set of books on geometric transformations. So that actually helps the kids to solve geometry problems in a non-standard way. That is, you solve the problems not by plugging in other theorems, but by moving around the objects like the triangles, the circles, and so on, by geometric transformations. So he was very inspired by that particular book. He used to always try and solve a geometry problem by using techniques from that particular book. There is a four books in the volumes. Four volumes are there actually. Now, what he did is, in his statement of purpose, he actually talked about that book and how he used ideas from there to already solve geometry problems in a non-standard way, in a very, and there was an originality to it because he actually did it. So when I'm talking about academic background, I'm talking about advanced classes, I'm talking about Olympiads. In your SOP, mention those things which sets you apart, which inspired you in some sense. So that's the second and the third point. The fourth point, which is superbly important, and I'll come back to this one more time, it's a connection with the specific university. So let's say you are applying to Princeton. Suppose you're applying to Princeton, and I'll be I will admit that we never had a student from Cheenta going to Princeton. That's one of my like sore points in our. I mean, we have had students going to Harvard, MIT, UCLA, whatnot, but not to Princeton. So maybe this year there is a good candidate. Anyway, let's say hypothetically you have someone who is going to Princeton, and you uh, you say that, okay, in Princeton, I think Andrew Wiles was in Princeton. He's not in Princeton anymore. Hypothetically, let's say Andrew Wiles is in Princeton. So you say in your SOP that, okay, I was deeply moved by the basic idea of proof of Farmer's last theorem by Andrew Wiles. I have seen the work of Andrew Wiles. I have not understood it, but I tried to understand it, and I read this book, that book, to understand it. So that establishes a connection with the university that you are applying to. So this particular paragraph will be different for each university that you are applying to. And again, you cannot fake it because you have to actually do the work. So one of the things about designing student applications to these universities is that you have to find what you love and then find professors and laboratories which are working on what you love. Read up some of the materials that they put out, maybe email the professors, and then put all of that in the statement of purpose in a very brief and concise manner. That actually sets you apart. That shows the university that you actually you're taking interest in the subject matter, and you're actually going above and beyond to reach some of the greatest professors who are out there. And then the fifth one is the diversity and uniqueness angle. So maybe you are a diversity candidate. There are a lot of encouragement for women these days in STEM fields. A lot of universities want them, and if there could be other types of diversity points which may uh, be related to your economic or social origins. So you have to work with your mentor very closely, who is working with your statement of purpose, to find out what should be your diversity story. And there is one, there is always one, but that should be in that statement of purpose. Okay, let's go to step 5. Step 5 has a community service, and that's a very, very powerful and important part of this entire application packet. And Cheenta actually takes a lot of pride in community service activities. Many of our students work with rural schools in India, and they help these kids from rural schools to actually go ahead and learn some really nice mathematics in very clever ways. So you can choose an organization like ours or some other organization who is working with some community and design a service that actually that helps that particular community. But most importantly, you should document the outcomes. You should document the outcomes of the process. Now I will share an example of such a such a community activity with you. It's called the math circle activity. Some of our students already do it. What they do is they meet rural kids, they work with them in a group, and then they document their entire activity as a diary. They document their entire activity as a diary. And that diary can be very interesting. I mean, I will show you one example of this particular diary. It actually says how the people in that particular group responded, how the people in that group responded to that, to all those discussions. So here is an example. Let's see if I can share this particular screen with you. Let's see. So here we go. Okay, so this is an example. This was created by one of our students, Sharonna. So here it is. So sure, this was actually done in 25/6/2023. It's a 6-page document. This is created by a kid called Sharonna. She is herself in grade 6, and she is documenting this math circle session where she is working with 6 students, 2 grade 6 students. There are 2 students from grade 6. So she is in grade 6 and she is teaching students who are in grade 6. And this is from Shopnapuran Welfare Society. So Sharonna lives in Bangalore, India, and Shopnapuran is a school from a very remote village in India, actually. So they use the tools like Google Meet, PowerPoint, and so on. So then Sharonna actually documents the problems that she did with these kids. And notice that she's not only documenting the problems, she's actually saying that, okay, so this is what he's saying. This is what she's saying. Okay, when I started with the problems, all right, I don't know what's happening. All right, this is from my LinkedIn actually. When she's saying that when I started this problem, the class was relatively quiet. and none of the participants were willing to share their views. One of the participants was facing internet issues and had to drop out of the call, and I was unable to learn her views. However, the other participant thought the answer was 15. Even though the answer was wrong, I was glad that she answered. After all, a wrong answer is better than no answer. And then she starts describing how the discussion actually went on. And notice this document is all colored and everything. So the next problem had a beautiful graph and more discussion on that. And then she more evidence that she actually did the work, how she explained it, what was the response, and so on. So this is a typical example of a community service. Imagine what impact the admission committee will have if they see a document like this, and we have seen evidence of that from before, that if a kid who is learning, who is teaching other kids non-routine problems and then documenting it in such an interesting way. Actually, this idea is borrowed from a Russian activity in mathematical Olympiads, which is called Russian math circles. But anyway, the point is that as part of the community activity, you should be um, trying out something like this, okay. So and Cheenta, if you are a student at Cheenta, there are many opportunities like this. You should definitely talk to your mentor about it, and they can help you to find something that you can. Okay, all right. So step 6, we are at the very end of the discussion. Step 6 is uh, internships or relevant experiences. I just mentioned it, but I would want to add one more thing to this, that you can also try to do an internship in something that is completely unrelated. Let's say some healthcare sector NGO, or some uh, literature related activities, something that is completely different from your academic activities. It's always very important to show a diversity of your character, and that is one of the key points, in the success stories. You cannot be just involved in academics. You have to do something else, and all of these internships, these sports related um, recommendation letters, they're all related to this diversity point. That is, you are not just an academic, you have a diverse portfolio. Okay, and finally we have the step 7, which is which we call the secret sauce. So this is often missing from many most of the applications. We call it deep pursuit of knowledge. So choose a subfield from mathematical science, and you can do some exciting reading projects on that. Reading projects are not exactly research projects, but what happens is you systematically learn a certain skill in some part of mathematical science. I will give you an example. We have had a student very recently who worked on a part of mathematics called hyperbolic geometry. So what she essentially did is that she went through the literature and actually learned all the necessary fundamental skills on hyperbolic geometry, and then she started communicating with professors in the related fields. Of course, when she is communicating knowledgeably. So that's the third point: initiate early communications. It's very important to find the right professors who match with your area of interest and initiate those early communications. You do not know who will be in the admission committee. So there is always a chance, and it's always a good idea to approach the professors and gain a sufficiently strong hold on some subfield of mathematical science. Okay, all right. So these are the 7 steps that uh, we have seen to be successful over the years. And I'm sure that if you do this systematically, and of course, if you are a student at Cheenta, we are always here to help. We take this thing extremely holistically. We your mentor will be able to see all the pieces and help you to carve a way out of it. But even if you're not a student at Chinta, that's also fine. You can just go through each of these steps, try to do really well, and remember, you don't have to be excellent in all of them. In fact, if you are excellent in just one of the 7 things that I told you, that might do the trick. You don't have to be excellent in all of them. That never works. In fact, it's better not to do that. Be really good at something and make sure to have that diversity angle, and I'm sure that you will do really well. All right, thank you all for joining in. Now, if you have questions related to this, please raise your hand and I will be happy to respond. And so we have several raised hands. Let's go to Obhijit Bhattacharya, the first person to raise hand. Yes.
Yes, sir. I have at least three questions. The
Okay.
first one, if I want to be a paleontologist, how will this program help?
A paleontologist?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think it's a very specific area of natural sciences. And if you really want to do cutting edge paleontology, then you would like to be attached to some laboratory which does that, right? And all of these laboratories are actually in the universities just that I just mentioned. So you have to first get into those universities and then you can go through the specialization.
So in
Uh,
every one of Ivy League's universities.
Sorry,
Sir, are these labs in every single Ivy League university?
this what? Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Sir, are all of these labs in every single Ivy
No,
League's
no, no,
university?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you try to search for the paleontology labs, then you will find them in some of the best universities in the world, right? They may not be Ivy Leagues, then there are other good, very good universities as well. So wherever you choose to go, you have to at least enter those universities, right? And how do you enter those universities? So these are the steps that you have to take.
Got it, sir. Sir,
Okay.
second, this violin mentor
So
count
one
as a
question at a time. I will come back to you. Okay. Okay.
uh,
Nayasha, go ahead because I don't have enough time, so I have to go by rotation. Nayasha, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Naisha's mother here. I
Hello, ma'am.
just want to know that, see, because there is a lot of mention in your, you have mentioned it many times about establishing communication with professors with respect to sharing your work and then, also kind of recommendations that come from them. So, I just want to know how to, how is it actually possible to say contact somebody or establish communication who is in the field, who's doing some kind of research. I mean, I just want a practical solution for that. Like we can obviously send mails, or but is that something that will get responded, you know?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So what usually happens? I'll give you an example. So this kid was studying number theory at Chinta, like normal number theory, mathematical Olympiad level number theory, and he learned about something called the arithmeticity. It's one of the newer things that number theorists are doing these days. And he tried to read up something naturally from Wikipedia. He could not. understand anything. Then he just emailed one of the biggest names. I'm not going to say the name, but one of the biggest names in the field. And
Okay.
there was a response within one day, I think, with a book recommendation. And then the kid actually went on to read the book and then read some of the research papers of that particular professors. He could not understand 95% of it, but with some time he could ask some more questions. So this is how it opens up. It has to happen organically. The first step is always to do a good research project or a good reading project after the student has done some amount of mathematical training. And once they start doing the research project or reading project, then they will encounter those academic papers from which they can ask questions to the people who wrote those papers. And that's how the communication starts. Okay.
All right.
All
All
right.
right, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Harini Ramesh, let's go to the next person. Is there a question from Harini Ramesh?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was on
Yeah.
mute. I said this is Harini's mom. So we
Hello, ma'am.
have this math Olympiad topics and the AMC preparations and the problem solving classes. So kids will be exposed to different topics in those problems, in those contest areas. But beyond that, if we have to do a research on a particular topic or reach out to the professors, etc., they need to have a little more deeper understanding of what all different topics are available. How do we inculcate that habit in the kids? Will the Cheenta mentors be able to help them if they are in the problem solving class, or will they need to have this additional research project class kind of program also they need to enroll? How does it work?
So usually this is how it actually happens. So usually they enroll for a mathematics Olympiad or physics Olympiad or informatics Olympiad program. They get trained for at least a year, and then they go on to do some research project or reading project in the summer or winter breaks. And once they have done at least one reading project, they then have enough knowledge to actually start reading some elementary level research paper, and then they can initiate the communications. So that's how it unfolds.
Okay. Okay, so mentors will be guiding them in all these steps, right? Because parents may not have all the idea on those topics. Maybe we will
Of
be in a
course, of
different.
course. Whoever the research mentor is or the reading project mentor is, that person will be doing this. That person will be helping with that. Yes.
Any specific grade when kids should start this activity?
It depends on the kids, but we have had kids who started at ninth grade, 10th grade, and so on.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Sushma, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please go to the level 4U class and let the students in. I'll just
Okay.
end up with
Sir, this is
questions.
Sudeep. I'm already here.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay, you are there.
Sudeep will be, yeah.
I'm
Okay,
here
okay,
to look
Sudeep,
after this.
please help that with it. Yeah, thank
Sir,
Yes.
you. Rashma Sahane, please go ahead.
yeah, sir, from where we can take this AP programs, advanced
You
placement?
so you want to take the test or you want to take the course?
Uh, course.
If you want to take the course, you can just go to our website and just ask for help. Or if you are in WhatsApp in connection with
Okay,
some admin, they can also help you to enroll for that.
okay,
I think the AP statistics course is just starting a new module. You can use that. And of
okay,
course, there are free courses as well on AP. But yeah. Okay.
okay.
So let's go to Minakshi Nevatia. Go ahead.
Hi, sir. I'm Arjun Narsimhan's mother. He's enrolled with Cheenta right now. On
Okay,
the
ma'am.
APs, we got some mixed views. Some said that for children studying IB, the APs don't add much. So he's done two APs this year, stats and microeco. But we were
Okay.
not sure whether to enroll for more APs for next year because that would be his last chance. So, but
Okay.
we got mixed views. Many said for IB students, it's not adding anything. So that's my question, sir.
I mean, the reason that it's actually partially correct because for IB students, they have other IB calculus, for example. IB also has calculus, right?
Yeah.
So those are actually very similar to calculus BC, AB at least for AP. So there is some truth to it, but I would say it doesn't do any harm. If you, even if it doesn't add a ton of value, it doesn't do a lot of harm. And at any rate, AP is more standardized for US universities than IB is. I mean, US universities understand what are AP courses readily, and
Right.
rather than looking at IB, whatever courses they took in IB. So IB always recommend to take AP courses.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Shukanya Gupta, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Dr. Ashani. First of all, thank you so much. It was very informative and very crisp. We made quite a bit of notes. Just one question. Actually, my question originally was on the AP credits, which I have got the answers for. The next question that I have is, you talked about, even exploring internship opportunities in maybe non-related areas. So I was just thinking that, let's say if the candidate goes to such an internship and tries to see what's going on and tries to relate some mathematical concepts to it, which eventually ends up solving a big business problem or posing a problem in a mathematical way, that should be a creditable work, I guess, right? That could be an approach.
Of course. That is a very, very nice approach, actually.
Okay, got it. That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Satya Kusumanchi, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Ashani. It was very informative. A question I have, I have two twin boys who are very talented in math, but kind of getting late into the program. They're already in 10th. Their next few months are loaded with personal project and 10th grade and all. What would you suggest for someone who wants to get into elite colleges, but starting late?
Well, first of all, 10th grade is actually not that late. Many students start after 10th grade exams. So if you are in 10th grade, I would suggest use the maximum use of the upcoming summer and make sure to prepare for AMC 12 and also take a reading course as quickly as possible. And that would be a really good starting point.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, let's go to Sanjana Chopakatia. Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm her father. Actually, I already posted this query on the group. But is there any specific application procedure for US citizens based out of India, or is it a regular procedure as in applicable for everyone else?
No, there is. I mean, you have to just, when you apply, there is a place to declare the nationality of the child. So, I mean, that's all you have to do. I mean, you have to just choose that. If
Okay,
the
and
US,
then there is no preferential treatment or any as such, right? It's same thing as in they are there in standard.
some students, some people are of the opinion that international students are held at higher standards than students from US origin. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go to Rajni Soni. Okay, let's go to Mr. Sanjay.
Hi, Dr. Dasgupta, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful session. I have one question. First of all, my son Aryan is in grade 7, and we have been working for the past few years on, let's say, math and reading. So our goal is not to get into outcome is top Ivy League, that is fine, but the goal is to learn, and math is one critical component. And so he has been solving a lot of AMC 8 questions from math counts and other places. So my question is, I wanted to get some sense in terms of, the problem solving approach, because there is a life after academics as well. So essentially, I want to balance, let's say, math learning. And so how do you go about, let's say, problem solving sessions, and how long is a program? I want to get some sense. And finally, we are in the central part of Canada, how the modalities might work out in terms of classes.
Okay, so the specifics about a Cheenta program, I think I can talk to you separately on that. But the main idea is this, that, I mean, we have people working from Canada and United States, so a lot of kids are there who are in Cheenta programs. But so we have timings suitable for that and so on. The main idea is this, that certainly AMCs and all these are very nice, and the goals are nice to have, that's all right. But you are absolutely right that at this point of life, the main goal should be to have a deep affection for the subject and really learn it well. That's the main goal. And one of the things that I personally found interesting, one of the things that I personally found useful for my life is to solve beautiful problems. Now, in this sense, I'll just tell you, I keep on repeating the same thing, but it's really is that. And I tend to not like American style of problems or contests that much. So if I were in your shoes, I would actually take up the Russian versions of the books, for example, Mathematical Circles by Fomin or something like this. Uh, and there is a sort of rhythm and beauty in those books that is very hard to find in the manual styled book that are created and churned out on AMCs. Of course, Americans
Yes.
have very
Right.
nice books as well. For example, Dolciani series or Dover books, wonderful stuff. But so at this point of life, if I were in your shoes, I would have handed out the kid with some beautiful book which contains almost literature standard beauty and
Right.
and beautiful problems, challenging problems. So that's all. I mean, going into Ivy Leagues and all, that's all fancy stuff, but this is more important in my mind.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, so I got your answer. So essentially, what you're trying to say is the learning, solving a problem at a deeper level. That should probably be one of the goals,
Yeah.
and not doing mindless so many questions. Like typically there are like 4,000 or 5,000 question on math counts web database. So because I did not see any value in terms of solving tons of questions without getting deep into question solving.
Yeah, I mean, just solve one good problem in a day. How about that? Or just not even solve, just think about one good problem in a day. So that's a good thing to start with. Okay, so I cannot take more questions today, but please post your questions in the WhatsApp groups that you're connected with the Cheenta team. I will surely answer them. I'm really sorry I can't answer because I have a class right now. Thank you all for joining in, and it's awesome to have all of you. I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care, bye.
Dr. Ashani, in future, can you do one session for PG preparations?
I will certainly do that. That's the next plan, actually. I'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, take care, bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.